Hello and welcome to live number 12. My name is Oren Gabay and I'm with OpenLM, and today we are going to speak about customizing your license servers using options files. What is an option file? An option file is a mechanism that allows you to determine many things about the operation of your license file, license server, and by that customize it to your own organization. So we will go deeper into the detail about what you can do. Basically, it's allocation, configuration of how the server can work, and so on. But let's start with some terminology. So in FLEXlm, it's called options file with S, options. In LMX, for example, it's called license server configuration file, which makes more sense to me at least. In DSLS, it's authorization file. So basically taking the aspect of the access rule and authorization and not putting the emphasis on other aspect. Now I will mostly use the terminology of FLEXlm since it's the most popular. So how do you create it? So technically it's very simple. You create a text file and you need to put it in the license server folder where the vendor executable is located. So in FLEXlm, when you get the license manager from the vendor, you get an installation, and when you install it, you get a vendor daemon. It's an exe. It's an executable, and it's named according to the vendor name. So MATLAB, for example, is MLM. So you have a file named, the vendor file is mlm.exe. And if you use Autodesk, then it's called adskflex.exe. Esri, it's called arcgis.exe. Okay, that's the vendor daemon. And you need to create a file named by the vendor.opt. So mlm.opt, adskflex.opt, and arcgis.opt. You locate it into the same folder as the vendor, and then it knows to read it when it starts. Okay, so we are over that. What can you do now? So there is a huge set of capabilities, and it's a very powerful mechanism that the license manager should know and should be familiar with in order to configure his license server. So you can use it as it is, from out of the box without it, but you can get a lot more from your license server if you actually utilize the different options and you master the option file and the configuration of it and how to do it. So let's see some of the options that are available. There are so many, and if you want more explanation, you can check our blog for an article about that. Search OpenLM options files. There is a lot, and you can also check your vendors documentation for options files, and it's the same for any software, except that some options might be supported by one vendor but not supported by another vendor, but most options are available for all vendor. So let's start with handling ports and logs and how the server rotates and saves the logs on the server. So these are mostly timeout for adjusting your license server for the speed of the network and latency problems. So such things are also configured there. This is the mostly the technical parts. There are multiple options. And then we come to the license allocations and the access rules and so on. This is where the power really comes up. So basically in FLEXlm, you can configure groups. So you can create groups of users and even machines and even IP addresses range, and you can define this as entities that are able to access, to do things, okay? So mostly access features. So you can say, I create a group, so group name A contains the following user, Oren, Mike, and Jeff. And then you can say what group A can do or cannot do. So a group A can access feature viewer. Group A exclude from feature editor, and so on. It's quite simple format. When we have few users, it's very simple. But if you have many users, it becomes very, very complex, impossible to manage manually. But the rules are very complex. It's not only what you can access. You can reserve licenses for a group. So I can say, I want to reserve 5 licenses for the following groups. So only people within this group can access this feature because they are critical users, they need it urgently, and so on. You can exclude people from taking specific features. You can there is an interesting option. Some licenses, like network name licenses, are based on option file. So you buy a network name license. So you have, let's say, 2 licenses. You must allocate them to users. Otherwise, you can't use it. And where do you allocate it? Allocate it in the options file. So it's actually part of your licensing, and you must use it for specific licenses. One very important functionality is timeout. So we will speak about that in the following videos, but one major problem is that people are leaving idle software on the desktops, and they just need to go somewhere and just once consumes the license, nobody else can access it. So some of the vendor, not every vendor, will allow you to define timeout. So it says, if the user doesn't use the software for, let's say, 15 minutes, then take the license back to the license pool. When he comes back, you can let him take another license if available. Now, that's a very smart mechanism. It has many limitations that we might be able to explain in another video. But if supported by the vendor, should definitely use it and utilize it. For example, Autodesk used to allow 15 minutes timeout for their licenses. Some, I think MATLAB allowed 4 hours, if I'm not mistaken. But it varies between the vendors, and this functionality has many limitations. So you need to take this into account. But that's not the subject of our life. Something very important is controlling license borrowing. So if at all we allow license borrowing within our network, we can control this. So I can say, don't let borrow more than 5 licenses out of the 30 I have, or by percent, or by many different, or to specific people, or specific group of people, and for up to 3 days, and so on. There are many different conditions we can apply. And to summarize, this is a very, very powerful capability, and I think that every license manager or engineering manager, whomever is managing the license server, should know how to use it. So, okay, it's amazing. What is the downside of this capability? So when you think about it, it's a list of users, workstation, permission, access rules. So if we think about it, what is it? A directory. So we have another directory within the organization. Instead, we don't, 2 minutes. So we don't only have our organizational directory. Now we have a dedicated directory for the engineering. And that's a problem, 2 directories, there will always be gaps and differences between the 2 directories. So that's actually not a good way to do things. Second problem is it's a text file. And I have seen some amazingly huge option file managed manually, which is completely impossible. It's a crazy task. It's thousands of rows with groups and rules and contradictions between the rules. So it's actually almost impossible to manage in a big. Think about that. It's a resource. It's a resource for each license manager. So if you manage that on multiple servers, then you need to manage one file for each server. So how do you make sure they are the same? So I will shortly explain how did we solve it within OpenLM. So what we did is we synchronize with your directory, with the single source of information, of truth. And then the groups can be used, or the groups can be used within the scope of OpenLM for anything, like access to OpenLM, the creation of option files, anything you want for access rules, for limitation, for anything. And then once there is a change within the organizational directory, we will synchronize everything automatically. So there is a single source of information about users, and we make sure that everything is synchronized. The rules are defined once and then distributed automatically to all license servers. So basically, in our solution, you have one source, is the organizational directory, and the rules are set within the application and maintained and distributed to license server by us. So that was a very short and brief review about the functionality of options files in FLEXlm specifically, and generally on license server configuration. So I would like to thank you for watching, and invite you to contact me, whether you want to ask something or share your experience, which I will share with others. Thank you very much and good day.